Hi folks, welcome to my next tutorial where I show my personal usage, my personal preferences for plugins. This time I'm talking about compressors, and you can see here my collection of compressors which I usually use in my projects. You can see there are quite a few, and as always I'd like to stress the point that these preference is a personal thing, and this is not a professional lecture on how to use compressors or how compressors work. You can find a lot of tutorial material on YouTube. I can also recommend you this book. Now I'm going to show you which compressors I use and why I use them. After this introduction, I will show you some example projects where you can hear and see the usage of these compressors. Okay, the first choice is always the standard Cubase compressor. I think in 70% of your use cases you might be content with this compressor. It's nothing special, but it does what it's told, and it does that with okay quality. And as you can see here, you've got all the parameters you need in order to tweak your compression. If you need more intricate possibilities, then you might choose the VST Dynamics. This includes the standard Cubase compressor, also a gate and a limiter, and it just helps you to perform 3 tasks just with one tool. There is no disadvantage in using the standard Cubase processor, but if you want a special sound or also a special transient behavior of a compressor, you might choose another one. And I have the philosophy that if I want a special sound, I use vintage emulations of compressors, such like the Urai 1176 or the LA2A, but I also use special tools like Flux Bittersweet. Let's have a look at the 1176. I think enough is said about this compressor. As you can see here, it has no threshold. Threshold is controlled using the input volume, and the gain is adjusted using the output volume. And this is a sound tool. The attack is very fast. 7 is fastest, 1 is lowest attack. And I very often use this compressor on vocals using this. I'm using this setting, maybe with a ratio of 4 or 8. And sometimes I use it on the snare drum, even on guitar. It's helpful. I never use it on the bass drum. Don't know why. I don't like it. And I also don't use this on the mix bass or on the drum bass or overheads. I know lots of people do that, but I don't like the sound. This compressor is very useful for leveling your sound and to keep your dynamics within a certain range. There is an alternative, the LA2A. It's a tube compressor using an opto element, and it has a different transient behavior. It's more simple than the 1176, and here you can control the compression rate with gain and the peak reduction. I use this compressor quite rarely because, don't know why, it sometimes works on bass guitar. Sometimes it's okay on the drum bass, and I use it mainly for male bass vocals. It works quite fine on bass vocals for me. The next one is the DBX 160, and I use this compressor to make the kick drum and the bass drum more snappy. It can give the drums very sharp transients, but you have to be very careful. This compressor, for me, in 50% of the cases, destroys the transients of the bass drum. So sometimes it works on the bass drum, sometimes it doesn't, but it often works very good on the snare drum. This is a very fine compressor. It's very special. It's for the it's a mix bus compressor, and for me it's kind of magic. I don't know how it works or how it does it. It's magic. I use it with very low compression rates. Just as they say, I'm kissing the needle a bit, and it does magic on your song, glues it together and changes the sound in a very subtle way, and I like it, but also be careful, it doesn't work on every track. It works on some tracks, and if I hear that it doesn't work, I just throw it out again, but sometimes magic happens with this compressor. Now for a very, very special tool I like very much, it's for free, and it's not really a compressor, it's transient shaping tool. It's called bittersweet, so if you put it on your track and tweak it to sweet, it will soften your sound, and as you might surmise, if you tweak it on the bitter side, it enhances your transients. You can also process, make an MS processing, so if you switch on center, on the centered mono part is processed, and if you switch it on stereo, only the stereo band is processed. It's a real magic tool, and I use it quite often, like the DBX 160, to tweak the transient of percussion instruments, clap sounds, snares, bass drum, also guitars. It's really great, and it's a higher recommendation from me. The next one is from EK Multimedia, from the T-Rex bundle. It's the opto compressor. I sometimes throw it in the insert path. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just for me a matter of trial and error if it works or if it doesn't. It also has mid-band sideband processing, with which makes it quite interesting. And there is another compressor from this T-Rex bundle I use quite often, and this compressor is really, really great. It has a filter on the sidechain sensing path, such that you can adjust the sensitivity on low frequencies. So if the bass drum keeps this compressor pumping too much, just take the filter, and the bass drum won't affect this compressor anymore. And I also quite often put this compressor on the mix bus. It sounds great, and it is a very special feature I also use quite often. It's the stereo enhancement. So actually it's not only a compressor, it's also a stereo enhancer, and it's working quite well. So for me, it's a real recommendation for single tracks and also for the mix bus. Okay. And now this guy from Melder Productions, this is really crazy. From the first glimpse, it looks like just normal compressor. You've got all the usual parameters to tweak. You have got different knee modes. You can also adjust the knee, as you can see here. Okay, quite normal, but now it's going crazy. You can customize the shape of the compression curve like this. You can also add new points here and here, and now you can really go wild with this compressor and tweak it like hell and achieve really creative and crazy compression things. Played around with this compressor quite a bit, and it's really amazing what you can do if you tweak this compression curve. Okay, so much for the compressors I actually use. And in the next parts, I'm going to show you some project examples where you can also hear the effect of these compressors. Goodbye, over and out.